Join us for another exciting episode at the home of spine-tingling research, the Knowledge Hub. Welcome to the Knowledge Hub, the podcast dedicated to bringing spine-tingling research out of the ivory tower and making it accessible and visible not only to the academic community, but also to the broader public. This morning, we have the opportunity to talk to Teenah Jutton from Mauritius. A very interesting lady with lots of stuff going on. So Teenah, welcome here and good to talk to you.
Thank you, Professor, for this opportunity, and thank you to everyone who is listening to us.
All right. So Teenah, let's start at the beginning. Can you take us back to your childhood in Mauritius? What was life like growing up there? And what early experiences shaped the person that you've become?
Well, I'm born in Mauritius in an area, a city called the Vakwa. And when you speak about my childhood, the first thing that comes to my mind are my grandparents, who are no more here today. But I remember the love, the pampering, and especially being a grandchild, how you would be pampered and kind of your stubborn wishes would get fulfilled with the grandparents. And when I remember my childhood and what has molded me into who I am, it's very first this, the family love, the support, the values inculcated, the education, which is not a formal education, but the informal education with which I grew up. For instance, being in Mauritius, which is a multicultural island where there is a unity in diversity. So we are an island living with different kinds of people from different religions, races, with Hindus, Muslim, Christians, Chinese, and it's so beautiful to witness all this diversity. But what I've learned from a very young age from my parents and grandparents is that to respect differences. And not everyone might be like us or look like us, but that doesn't mean that they do not belong. So everyone belongs, and everyone has a unique gift to bring and share, and we should learn to honor that. And that's what has shaped me into being who I am, because I've learned that from a very tender age, and that's how I've learned to respect others and grow through life, I would say. And like life is not always a bed of roses. There has been ups and downs. Growing up, of course, I would say I come from a middle-class family where it was very hard before because my dad was struggling. I had to say was struggling to make the financial ends meet because he was taking care of not just our family, but the whole extended family at one point, because we lost my grandfather very early. And things were not that easy, but it was, I would say I'm very, very grateful, but I never lacked anything. And the most beautiful pillar of the foundation, I would say, is this. It's the love, the education, and the care given to me that has molded me into who I am today.
Sure. Well, that sounds like an extremely solid foundation, but also that you are safe in your environment and that you are open to the world by being that. So you've got quite a impressive educational path. So just tell us a little bit about your qualifications and that led up to you becoming a lecturer at the Mauritian Open University.
Okay, so funny is that I wanted to be a psychologist. I studied the sciences and I wanted at all costs to do something which has to do with studying human behavior and try to bring some positive change in lives of people. But when I had to apply to the universities, I had a career fair with the people, with the ministry, where I was advised to go for a career which is easy, very easier career path, because it was not easy as a psychologist or even if you specialize as a clinical psychologist to get to work at that time. So they advised me to go for either IT or finance, which was a bit against my wish, to be honest, but I did it. and being a dreamer and an achiever, although it was a bit tough because I didn't study accounting and economics in college, I did science. But I took it as a challenge, and I actually learned with a lot of dedication, and I topped up even in my classes in university. And so I got a degree in management and finance, and I later did a specialization in financial risk management. And the aim was to actually work in the financial services sector, and that's where my career actually started. The first job I took up was that in one of you call it global services sector, offshore sector in Mauritius. So the first two employers were in the offshore sector, and it was very enriching. But then I realized, that the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is actually to give it away. So then I chose to pursue a career which would help me make people's lives better. And while I was working at the in the global sector, global financial services sector, I was also doing some lectures part-time at the university. And this helped me get that kick, if you know what I mean, a kick feeling that you are on purpose, that feeling of passion, wanting and feeling that you're contributing to make people's lives become better. So then I decided to move and become a lecturer at the university, and pledging to support the SDGs 4 and 5, which is actually about education, gender equality. And of course, I've been trying my best not just to be, academic lecturer, but also mentor youths. And so basically that's the path from my studies to my career.
Sure. From finance to teaching and making a difference. Now, you published a paper it's a conference paper, 2015, and that was about educational technology. So it seems your initial interest and also how you want to make a difference led to that paper. Just tell us a little bit about that paper and what you got, what the information is that you got there.
First thing is that at that time, distance learning and blended mode was very new. Open University was the first university set up to offer distance learning and blended modes of learning, and there was quite some resistance at the start. And then that's why we started going into the benefits and trying to sensitize people about how you can actually be into learning and very interesting interactive learning modes through distance education, blended learning. And I think that at UNISA you were very well molded and formed, and we actually had our first collaborators being UNISA and Commonwealth of Learning call. So even I got a full training from UNISA, the professors who came, and then from the call about instructional design, materials and everything. And then we found, because we were equipped with that knowledge, we wanted to transfer that knowledge, and we wanted also students to learn how to embed technology into learning. So then it started about, first of all, training the teachers and making the teachers realize how important it is and how beneficial it might be to use technology. So me and a group of colleagues, researchers at the university, we decided to do this as a start, as a first research, to see how to encourage students to embed, for instance, YouTube into learning as a learning material. And it was very interesting, I would say, because we had different teachers who were resisting because they thought that their roles would be limited, or even parents. But then the students were always very, very excited about YouTube technology, and even the idea of receiving an iPad or a notebook from us at that time. But it was very interesting. And I would say now, of course, there has been a transition, and we have moved into a kind of digital native community nowadays. But yes, it was very challenging at the start, and it's been very interesting because that's exactly the aim. We wanted to portray the positive use of technology into learning. and it was very interesting part of my early journey as a researcher, I would say.
That sounds interesting. And YouTube in 2015, now it's AI in 2025. So, but it seems to me you also work quite a lot in empowering women to pursue IC-related careers. Tell us a little bit about that.
So as I said earlier, I pledged to support the SDGs, especially the SDG about empowering young girls and women, and education being very intrinsically linked. I always had a very strong passion for STEM and standing up for women taking up STEM subjects, which is a sad reality. And it is also a reason why I became a member of the OWSD, which is to try to encourage more young girls and women to actually take up STEM subjects in school, which is science, mathematics, technology, etc., engineering, and then pursue a career. But in Mauritius, I saw, and also being a science student myself, I knew how I was discouraged, and I wanted to change that. So that's why the idea about the research came, and that's where I applied for a grant with the Higher Education Commission on SAME, and I built a small team of colleagues, and we started working on the project, and we had very interesting results. So we studied the barriers that made women not be encouraged to continue a career in ICT. And then we drilled down to the choice of subjects at schools, the factors influencing choice of subjects, being, for instance, peer pressure, culture, or maybe just that lack of information and education and awareness about how a career in ICT can be actually a very good thing for a lady, a woman, a young girl at that time. So so that's how it started, and these are causes which are very close to my heart, because these are causes I strongly believe in and want to make an impact in, and that's how it started. And I want to also to say that I was grateful that it worked out beautifully, and we even got the grant. And we even published reports, and we even presented it at different conferences.
Well, was that maybe a reason that you actually left academia? Because in 2019, you made a significant career shift from a lecturer to a politician, and you were one of the youngest people elected to Parliament. And can you tell us about that? What prompted that, and how did that happen?
Thank you for this question. Actually, as I stated earlier, what prompted my career shift from the financial services sector to lecturer was the meaning and the purpose of life. And for me, I found out that my fulfillment or life purpose came from the feeling of contributing in making lives better. So when I was a lecturer at the university, I also engaged in a lot of social activities, empowering the youths, the women, and I even had an NGO set up to do a lot of social activities because I wanted to contribute in making lives better. So then it's not like I left academia for politics. I was still an academic. I remember I was still giving lectures in the class, and when I got a call, because I had no godfather in politics and I knew no one, it was not like I went to look for it, but I got a call and then I was asked to join. I was asked to go for a meeting with the PM at the time in the party, and then I was offered a ticket to be a candidate for the party. And the reason why I said yes was because for me it was very connected to my life purpose of trying to transform lives. So either I was on that side of the table, always advocating for change, which I was already as a researcher, as an academic, as a social worker, or I can be on the other side of the table, bringing the change. So being a politician made me believe that I would be able to bring the change faster by being part of the decision-making team. So that's what prompted me to be a politician. I was the youngest in my party at that time. And of course, it was very challenging in itself And especially, I would say, being a young girl, it was not easy, but it was very challenging and very rewarding.
Well, it seems to me your basis and the fact that you are willing to make bold decisions comes out in this. Before we continue, let me tell you about a journal that's rethinking what academic publishing can be. The Journal of Exotechnology and Education, or JEXT in short, isn't your typical academic journal. This open access, peer-reviewed publication welcomes not just traditional articles, but also videos, games, podcasts, apps, animations, and even works in progress. If you are researching cutting-edge technology in education and want to show your work in motion rather than just describe it, this is your platform. And here's the best part. While we are awaiting accreditation, there are no page fees. All content is freely available under Creative Commons licensing, so your research reaches everyone who needs it. Ready to publish something truly innovative? Email Erna at olive@unisa.ac.za. That is olivee@unisa.ac.za, or visit their website to learn more. And that's JEXT, where educational technology research breaks free from static pages. Now, it also seems your first parliamentary speech in 2020 made headlines, apparently because you delivered portions in Hindi. So it seems to me how did that happen? Is it your upbringing, or did you want to focus on a specific group, or why did you do that in that way?
Thank you for this question. It is a funny anecdote because it was my first maiden speech, and the whole speech was actually in English with portions in French. And only the last sentence was in Hindi.
Okay.
But well, I don't want to judge, but because they wanted to choose something that would make headlines, so they only chose the last sentence of the speech, which was in Hindi, which actually translated into something like, what this government will do and what the Prime Minister will do will be embedded in golden letters in history. Meaning, what I was trying to convey, that we would leave a legacy behind. So it was not with a specific intent to attract a particular niche or nothing, but it was just because since I used English, French, and I am also allowed to use Hindi, but I should also translate it into English or Creole afterwards, which then I didn't get to because I was short of time and my speech exceeded time limit. So yeah, but basically that was it. And with no specific intent behind speaking a few words in Hindi. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, I think it's clear that challenges doesn't bring you down, but it brings out the best in you. And after your election, you faced serious online harassment with manipulated images and videos and so on. That must have been quite difficult and so on. So how did you respond to that?
As you said, it was very difficult. For the first night when I discovered about it, I have to admit I was completely shattered. I even locked myself in the room and I was in deep pain. It was torture. It was really torture, mentally, emotionally, and physically, because I became very sick. And I was scared about with which eyes would people look at me, from which lenses, after they have seen the deep fakes, and especially a woman's dignity being like the biggest jewel she carries with pride. And coming from a Hindu family, which at that time was quite conservative, I would say. It made it very, very hard. And for one moment, I even considered whether I made the right choice and the right career by choosing to be a politician. Because it hurt me to hell, thinking I was out there putting my soul into trying to serve people, serve the community, and make people's life better. And that is very word, like being it is actually technology facilitated gender-based violence. I would say being assaulted in that way, being harassed, being bullied, and being tortured. And it was not easy. It took me some days, weeks, I would say, to really get out and to come out to the other side of it, where I decided to transform this wound into a purpose. And that purpose became to make things different for the other young girls who want to join politics. Because I thought that if I am facing it and that becomes like normalized, then what will the parents of other young girls say? So I wanted that other young girls who have the capacity, who have the skills, who have the passion and the ability and that burning desire to make a change for their country, for their society, not be burnt. And I wanted to make the parents also feel that it's okay for young girls to join politics. But it is a constant battle, even until today it is. So that's why I decided to speak up against it. I joined my voice to international campaigns like the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association campaign on online abuse. I was even invited by UNFPA in New York to share my story with an audience with all the world leaders in 2021, I think it was, and even in 2022, where they invited me. In 2023, there was a follow-up with an online section where sharing of the story helped to broad awareness, one, and second, most importantly, is to try to reach out for support, for concerted efforts globally, so that social media platform owners try to get some, at least, accountability. Because it's like, it's funny, it's a bit like when music is played without consent and there is copyright issues. But when selected images of you are just taken and then even edited without your permission, it's a huge legal blunder, and it's about human rights and human dignity issues, but no one seems to take care about it or even bother about it. So that's why, and I still remember, that's why for me the words of Maya Angelou really, really resonated with me, because there is a poem that she wrote, which is long, but I just quote one line from it, like, you may kill me with your hatred, you may shoot me with your words, and it goes on, but still, like air, I will rise, and that's what I chose to do. But it's been a constant battle over the 5 years, and even until now. It's not easy, but the efforts continue, the advocacy continues, and the support to build that kind of, I would say, sisterhood tribe continues.
Well, that's amazing, to turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones, and to make something not only for yourself, but to create opportunities for all girls. And you see, I think with AI currently, it's becoming more and more of an issue. So people should be aware of this and being empowered to fight this. So well done how you handled that. Now, let's just wrap up your political career. You did, I think, a lot of work in gender, but also practical issues like housing in your constituency and so on. Just tell us about what you did in that to make this difference, that you say, the meaning that you want to create, not only for yourself, but by doing it for other people.
Yeah, so very early in my career, and the position I was in, which is that of a parliamentary private secretary, I was in charge of infrastructural projects in the constituency. So my constituency was suffering of two main issues. First being flooding issues, because a lot of people were living along the southeast coast, which is actually a very vulnerable region. And so when there was heavy rainfall, there was water accumulation, and a lot of people were suffering. And so that touched my heart a lot. And so that is one issue. And second issue is actually water shortage, because shortage of potable drinking water, and when there is no water, people suffer enormously. So, and so I just quickly say about for the drainage projects, we started with the government at that time huge projects, because we had to study what is it that was wrong and how to bring about first short-term solutions for people not to suffer, and second, of course, a long-term solution which involved building cross drains from the mountains to capture the rainwater and to ensure that there is a proper way of discharge that is not detrimental to the people and livelihoods. And on the other hand, for water, for people to have water in their home, we started building service reservoirs, we started changing the pipes, renewal of pipes along different areas, different regions. And you also mentioned housing. So it is a fact that many people, especially I would say the lowest, most vulnerable in their income ladder, they really needed help and support. And this government came up with a policy to give the social housing projects, and that's where there were social housing projects for the constituency, where people, of course, as per certain criteria, well-defined criteria, had the opportunity to get a home. So it was like a child having the opportunity to have a home and a future. So these are projects which really made my heart feel like I'm able to make one life better or some lives better. And this is what true leadership is about for me.
It's clear that you made a difference on local level, but it's also internationally you participated, because you've represented Mauritius at significant international events like the Raisina Dialogues in India and IPU events and UN-related gatherings. Can you tell us about your contribution and message there?
Thank you. So first of all, for the Raisina Dialogue, I have to say I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be chosen as a young leader from across the pool of the participants, which is a year-wise event. So I think we were 50 or 40 or 50 chosen for the first batch of the COVID, where it was like an intensive grooming, training, and networking with the Observer Research Foundation in the year. And from that point on, I became what you call a Raisina Fellow. And the training in itself involved spread across a broad spectrum, from politics, geopolitics, education, climate change, IT, etc. But from there on, for conferences that were held, and my contributions focused mostly on my fight for SIDS and climate change. So most of my speeches had to do with that, with my advocacy for climate financing, especially coming from a small island developing state myself, and given the urgent threat of climate change. For instance, if there is heavy rainfall continuously for a month, we might even disappear, like Maldives and Seychelles. So my focus was to urge the developed nations to respect the Paris Agreement and their promise, to support for the climate financing. And of course, it's been a long way, but there has been so much of what I call lip service, but not enough bold change and bold measures of financing, especially to support. And my main advocacy at most of the forums is to go by what the UN developed as a vulnerability index, which is a multi-scaled vulnerability index, so that developed nations and funding institutions could use that as a basis, and not just the GDP per capita for a country to give financing. And that made a lot more sense, especially for those countries which are really, really at threat. And apart from climate change, which is very close to my heart, I've been focusing mostly also on gender equality, education, and nowadays also on the blue economy. And again, coming from Mauritius, which is surrounded by the blue, and being the fifth largest EEZ. So I'm working on research papers and writing around this and advocating for growth and support and collaboration in this sector.
Yeah, well, it's true. Being on an island, you can think you're isolated, but actually you are almost more open to changes in the world and geopolitically and so on. So I think that's very important. Now, you are no longer in Parliament, and that is a significant transition. Now, how have you processed that change, and what did you learn from your time there, and where are you going now?
Well, I only learned one thing, that there is nothing which is constant. So change is the only constant.
That's true.
So we just have to adapt and flow. And for me, it's like, as I've said, that my life purpose is around influencing lives. And that's why I adopt John Maxwell's definition of leadership, which is that leadership is about touching lives. So for me, leadership is not about titles. Irrespective of being or not being a member of parliament anymore, I believe that the work continues, and I try to find ways in which this change can continue. For instance, as I said, the gender cause, the climate change cause, and especially trying to sensitize corporates and businesses about adopting eco-friendly practices and what I call ESG, so this is very important. And of course, the causes about the young girls, women, gender education is also very close to my heart. So I engage in that in a variety of ways, for instance, with the UN projects, UNESCO projects, and also on a few projects with some colleagues internationally about violence for women in refugee camps.
Well, this whole podcast is about bridging the gap between academic research and real-world impact, and it's absolutely clear that that's what you are doing. Now, one of the projects that you worked on is, to talk about health issues and mental health issues and the stigma around that, and you even produced a film called Love Yourself. Tell us about that.
Well, this comes from the days when I was at the university. I was a lecturer at the university. And I was working a lot with the youths, and then there is one thing that actually shook me a lot. I had one of my students committing suicide, and that moment brought me to thinking and reflecting, because what is it we could have done to prevent it from happening? And the whole thing that I used to see that student every day, and that I never even thought that that person might be going through a depression or struggling so much and having such thoughts. So that's what led me to do research, first of all, about the issues that the youths were facing at the time. And it came to awareness that a lot of young girls were struggling with, self-image issues, the peer pressure, internet pressure to be slim. And I did some research, and I found out that 1 out of 5 girls were actually suffering from what you call eating disorder, either anorexia or bulimia. And I had one student even committing suicide from things that accumulated and the lack of self-worth, image, and personal relationship not working out. And it really, really touched my heart. And I tried to speak to other youths, and I found out that a lot of them were struggling with depression in different ways. And I found it so sad that people were suppressing it because they felt ashamed to speak about it. So that's why I brought out the whole movement and campaign on mental health awareness, where I was doing advocacy to the government at that time about, mental health awareness, destigmatizing speaking about mental health. I did even a series of not just walks, campaigns, and I produced that movie with actual students who were part of it. And of course, some artists were actors, real actors. And so it's a bridge to try to, first of all, generate awareness about the issues and the stigma around mental health. And second, how to help support and give support to people. It might not be that they need to go to a psychologist. It might just be that they need to feel heard or they need to feel seen. And this is the whole aim about it. And I have to say that I got the support of students, youth at the time, and then this movie became possible. And then from the production, it was also launched with support of the Ministry of Health at that time, and the Ministry of Arts as well. And then, so that was the aim. And then after that, of course, I became a politician, and I had to juggle with the time. So a project was there, but then I had to also leave the NGO because I had to wear other hats. Yeah.
Well, it's no surprise that you were actually got the MIPAD recognition. You know, one of the 100 most influential people of African descent under 40 years of age. So that's a significant honor. So what did that actually mean, and how did that happen?
I'm very, very grateful for the recognition. Although, as I said, I don't believe in titles or and that everything is about being awarded. But it did mean something, because I didn't even know how the organization found out about me and my job, and they wrote to me, and I was very touched. And they were looking for youngsters, especially at that time from African descent, who were contributing in a significant way to their communities. So, of course, it means a lot, but the efforts geared at trying to build a better society were being recognized. And yes, I remember when I was at the UN summit at that time, that's when the award also happened. And of course, it gives you a moral boost for the work you do.
Well, you are also a global shaper with the World Economics Forum and part of the OWSD. What is that, and what were you doing there, and what's your research and contribution in those fields?
So that was very early, even in my days as a student at the university, where I joined the Global Shapers, which is an initiative of the World Economic Forum to regroup youth together, sharing the same passion. And for me, since early, I had that passion to try to make the world better. So wherever it was for advocating to make the planet better, reducing environmental pollution, taking care of our sea, of our reefs. That's how it started. And then I joined the network of the Shapers, where we did different projects together, especially focusing on our coral reefs and the sea and the blue, and of course on environmental pollution. And OWSD came when I was working as a lecturer at the university, because I wanted to support women in STEM. And being a science student myself, and having been faced with that, that struggle and that questioning about the career path, that's why I wanted to make a difference. So then I became a member, and I also did advocacy with various women, nationally and internationally. So advocating for women to take up STEM subjects. And there was even one event where we rewarded scientists, young girls with bright ideas, and even accomplished scientists here in Mauritius coming up and delivering lectures to the youth, so that they know about it and there is a greater awareness. Yeah, basically that's the part of it.
Something is happening right now. Across every boardroom, every bank, every small business, every institution on this continent, the rules are changing. Artificial intelligence isn't coming. It's already here. And the question isn't whether it will reshape your industry. The question is, will you be the one leading that change? Most leaders know AI matters, but knowing it matters and knowing what to do about it, that's a very different thing. The gap between those who understand AI and those who don't is becoming the most dangerous gap in business today. Introducing AI for Leaders, a 6-session short learning program developed by the Institute for Technology Strategy and Innovation in partnership with NWU Business School. Designed for leaders and entrepreneurs across Africa, practical, focused, immediately applicable. Over 12 weeks, you'll go from understanding the foundations of AI to mastering prompt engineering, the art of getting AI to do exactly what you need, to using AI to supercharge your personal productivity in tools you already use every day, to exploring the cutting edge, agents that work autonomously, making decisions, executing tasks, and transforming your business processes while you focus on strategy. You'll learn from world-class facilitators, engineers, professors, entrepreneurs, and journalists who live at the intersection of technology and business. Guest lecturers at Cornell, Northwestern, and Cambridge University. Practitioners who have shaped the conversation on AI across Africa and beyond. Complete the program, and you won't just have a certificate registered with Northwest University. You'll have the confidence, the language, and the strategy to lead AI adoption in your organization. And because this program qualifies under the Skills Development Levy, your company can fund it as part of your training spend. The leaders who will define Africa's digital future are learning right now. The only question left is, are you one of them?
Let's talk about your exciting new chapter. You've been pre-selected by the UNESCO Youth for Peace, the Intercultural Leadership Programme, and there were 8,250 applicants, and they only chose 50, and you are one of those. So, firstly, congratulations. And what is this program all about, and how do you see your contribution there?
Thank you so much, Rubis. I'm actually very grateful again that I got such an opportunity, and right now it is ongoing. So we have ongoing training and grooming sessions, which are very insightful because the world, as I said, it's connected to my purpose to make this world better. And the whole team is about cohesion, peace, and ensuring that there is, that the whole ecosystem is better. So, for instance, geopolitics, for instance, using tools like technology as a bridge and not to divide. And we are seeing nowadays what is happening with migration and the struggles of the people. And I think it is very, very relevant. The grooming is amazing with UNESCO, and we are also getting the chance to start up a project with a seed capital of $10,000, which is about a project to bring greater social cohesion. So yeah, it is a very exciting part of my current journey right now, and I'm glad.
So let's talk once again about this program. It seems to me it is about, the focus is learning to collaborate for a shared future and using dialogue to foster social cohesion in a world on the move. And I think that is so crucial these days. If you see the whole problem of identity politics, and that people are actually killing one another, or killing people thinking differently from them. So if you think about the project that you are planning now and the research that you are going to do about that, how do you see that? Where do you want to go with this program and your contribution to this program?
Well, my initial project proposal is actually about the use of technology as either a cohesion tool or a harbinger of doom. And because in this increasingly interconnected yet fragmented digital space, I see that our digital natives, especially our young generation, is mostly a technology-savvy generation. But I've also seen, and we have seen, how one misinformation, disinformation, or one fake news can just generate a huge hype. For instance, it can even bring about disharmony and manifestations, fight, and hate speech. That's why my research right now is focusing on this and how we can actually embed greater awareness and use technology as a tool for this greater social cohesion, and also be aware and assess how to mitigate the risk, the dangers, and the threats that come up with the use of technology, especially when we look at what is happening right now, as I said, with migration policies, with this identity crisis, as you named it, and especially this kind of territorial belonging. What is it all about, and how we actually can use technology to create greater harmony and bring greater peace.
I think that, as I see, the problem is that technology, as you said, links people together, and you can hear about anyone anywhere in the world. While in the past you were quite local in terms of your reach and also your exposure, but the fact that people are linked almost globally doesn't mean that they think globally. They just think, they almost just give a tweet of 140 characters, and that's the totality of their contribution. So it's not well thought through, and it's not something that you can think, okay, but there are different sides of the issue that is being taken into account. So how do you think in this case, because of this, how can technology, which actually I think created the problem, how can it solve the problem?
I actually really like the way you put it, and even the metaphor you use. I think it comes from awareness, sensitization, and also education, because I think that the whole debate is about what is it that they see as a problem first, and like you see, the glass is half full or half empty. So it depends on with which lens you see it and you choose to see it. Second, and of course, the glass that holds the water in itself, which is here for technology we're talking about. I think that it is very, very important to, as I say, to bring this sensitization to the people about how one small spark, for instance, what is posted on social media, that can be like a spark to either incite hatred or to bring, as we'd say, cohesion and unity. And how things, for instance, can be said in different ways, and how even the social platform owners can also, I would say, be more responsible and take ownership of what is happening. For instance, one true case is that, for instance, for Africans, we have so many different languages. And even for Mauritius, we have our local languages. And one of the issues that we faced in the past, like on MIPAD, is that MIPAD doesn't have enough moderators for translation of what is being posted. So even if some cases of posts are reported, they don't know how to go about it because they don't understand it. So first of all is to bring awareness and to really nudge for social platform owners as well, that they also need to be part of the discussion, and this accountability and responsibility, of course, apart from individual accountability, there's also shared collective human accountability and responsibility which is needed. So my thoughts about technology is that it is neutral in essence. So it's how we use it and how we make use of it that is very, very important. But a lot of time when there is no information, no education about what are the harms of something, people don't know. A simple, naive or innocent post can create, as I say, riots. So it's very important to sensitize, and the lives of people can be completely destroyed. Like I said earlier, like even in my case, like of online harassment. there were young girls who were victims of such harassment on Telegram, where those young women even decided to commit suicide. So it's very dangerous. So I think that's the whole point here.
Now, social media actually changed quite a lot in the past few years, or 2 or 3 years. Previously, they had a kind of a policy to allow only certain points of view, and everything that was against that, they just filtered that out. And now, after Twitter became X, this has changed. You know, there's a much more open. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, that it is more open now?
So I've seen both parts of it. As I've said, the good thing is that it allows information to circulate, but the bad thing is that if there is no proper moderation, like for instance, as I said, like hate speech, or even, misinformation, or fake news, like we saw what happened with COVID, and even about the vaccines and the whole idea about it. So it can be very dangerous. So I think in itself, it's neither good nor bad, but we need to know how to navigate through, because as we say, that change is the only constant. So if this is the way now, people are advocating for freedom of expression, fine, but how to communicate freely with respect and without without creating disharmony, that's fair.
Yeah, so it seems to me in the past it was a top-down, the people in power decided what was good and what was bad, and they decided on our behalf. And now, when it's open, now it's a bottom-up. We as individuals have to take responsibility. And so the idea then, I think, should be we should empower and train people, and especially young people, but all people, of how to manage truth. So, and I see it as a kind of a 5-step process. Firstly, you must understand what the question is, because usually what people give to you is what is a surface thing, but below it there's the real message. So you must try to understand the real message, and then you have to get the facts about that, and then you have to become aware of your own blind spots, like Kahneman said.
We need people who are psychologists and who are trained like you to help in this mission.
Yeah.
And because you understand it so well and explain it so amazingly well.
Yeah.
And I think that if we have more collaboration with professors like you, it would help indeed create a deep impact.
So I think the whole idea about training people how to navigate truth, that needs to be what's going on. All right, so do you see yourself ever returning to full-time academic work, or because, academia is about research, it's about teaching, but also about community engagement. And what you did, you started off with research and teaching, but now you are full-blown into the community engagement part of academia. And that is absolutely, taking it out of the ivory tower into the real world. And do you ever see yourself going back to academia?
Well, yes, because I actually am already engaged with academia, but it's not like a full-time job. So I still teach, I still mentor young girls, and I still do classes. And I also focus, so it's for me, as I said, because what is relevant is about bringing about that impact, so whether through teaching or whether through community engagement. So for me right now, it's the mix of both.
Well, absolutely stunning.
I also mentioned that I also do research, so I'm collaborating with 13 institutions and people to do research on causes that matter to me, like, as I said, climate change, blue economy.
Well, Teenah, it was absolutely a pleasure talking to you and seeing your passion and how you grew from a little girl on a tiny island until someone who is making a global impact and making a real difference to the people who need it. And you know what, when I have a look at you, I see the strength of a person, but also the kindness of someone who really cares. So it was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and all the best in your project.
Your words mean so much to my heart. Thank you so much. Thank you for a beautiful encounter.
Thank you. And that was another version of the Knowledge Hub, and see you next time. If you are involved in research that you would like to share with the rest of the world, please contact us on knowledgehub@blue-marble.co.za.